This is the Lydian spin, and we're not going to stop. But we would appreciate any help we can get because, look, our mouths do not run on gas and air alone, occasionally food and drink. So if you wouldn't mind contributing, no contribution, too large or too small, because we're just going to keep going whether or not you help us out. Your gain, your loss.
The PayPal is paypal.me/TSD1975. That's paypal.me/TSD1975.
It would help. We're going to keep going. We don't like to beg, and certainly we're not, but actually, it's a fucking command. Take it or leave it. Thank you. This is the Lydian Spin. No, you don't see me, Timmy, because I'm in bed having my own personal shutdown on this day.
That's fine.
Spin with Tim Dahl. I'm in bed. Where are you? Bosnia?
I'm in Tallinn, Estonia. But it's funny you say that because guess what I'm hearing? And we might even hear it on this intro. We got these NATO Italian F-35 jets just ripping through, doing drills over the city because after the Russian invasion or not invasion, whatever, going into they deployed tons of these things just 20 miles south of the city. So they're doing all these tactical.
It's ridiculous right now.
It's ridiculous. So it's like I'm like chilling out, and all of a sudden, like wham, these fucking jets are going over. So it's a little dynamic for sure. I mean, everyone's just going on with their evenings and days, not like pretending it's not happening, but it's pretty conspicuous to me.
Well, exactly. I mean, look, send all the military you can find out into the streets of America, where there's the internal war is waging and raging, and let's make sure no place else also on the planet is without war, because right now, all war all the time. It's getting pretty fucking boring.
Yeah, well, this General Thomas was scary or whatever. After the generals gathered in their masses.
Just like asses.
Well, yeah. What's the joke? Something about listening to two dumbasses or something like that. Yeah. Anyhow,
God.
Yeah. First of all, that's
moron and the idiot come together. Yeah.
That because of the whole hierarchical
insult
military design, they had to go upon Trump's request. But that breaks tons of protocol to cluster all those people together in one room, and that's never done unless a moron that knows nothing insists upon it.
Not one person that is dedicated for whatever fucking ridiculous reason their life to military service wants to sit in that chair and listen to a bonehead with bone spurs talk nonsense about Obama dancing down some fucking stairs, and then another fucking dry drunk sexual abuser, both in the same club, who says that, they need to do more push-ups. Well, if the commanders of the army and military shouldn't be fat, get Trump on that fucking treadmill right now.
Well, Trump's also a draft dodger. So, I mean, he's trying to be this tough guy. It's ridiculous. But unfortunately, already we have this one general who retired yesterday. So he basically wants to intimidate because some of these guys are so loyal to the military design,
to the cause,
holding the Constitution,
to the real cause.
They don't want to go against the commander in chief. A coup is really not the way to go on this, but
unfortunately, no, they don't want to. But they don't want to go against what they signed up for, which is basically the Constitution, not some Cheeto head telling them what to fucking do. It's all ridiculous. I'm gonna go take a nap. I don't care. Why don't you go do a gig? When's your next gig?
Well, I have a gig tomorrow. I mean, you do have Jane Goodall just died, and you do have some people who are at least trying to.
Yeah,
I don't know. Exactly. We have compassion in this world.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, she died, and in her place, we have apes in the halls of Congress. Go figure ones out.
Actually, there's a guy, Justin Bietz or something, is getting arrested. He got arrested in California for sawing off the head of a sea lion, but it was dead already. So it basically just caused a big stir because he was walking with his daughter who's into marine biology, and he thought hey, you're some I don't know, some weird dad. He's like, well, let's cut the
Well,
head off.
maybe he's a fan of RFK asshole Jr., who, has
Oh,
cut off the
right.
head of a whale before.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
It
Anyhow,
just gets
all right,
dumber every day. It just gets dumber
it
every
gets dumber.
day.
Um, well, we can continue and rant and rant and rant, but I'm tired because I just flew. Oh, I just didn't. I basically didn't sleep at all for the last
You had your own
30
jet
something hours.
flying. I know, yeah. And I'm just exhausted by all the nonsense. So
But
I'm
we
having
do have
my own.
Shane. We go ahead.
I'm going to have my own shut eye for the shutdown for today. I'm going to finish reading Long Haul in search of the 500 serial killing truck drivers, and then we can just get on with it with Shane Embry of Napalm Death,
You
who's
have Napalm Death, who is actually quite a sweet guy, and even though that name is very misinterpreted, he's actually very pro. Well, not
prolific.
pro-life in the sense
He's
of the
prolific.
anti-abortion movement, but he's pro just being out there and contributing in society. So,
It's been going for decades, as we
oh
have.
yeah, well,
It feels
like
like this
yourself,
intro's gone on for decades. So with
like
that,
yourself, he's another one of these just teenagers that just says, you know what, screw all this. I'm just going to
die hard.
follow what I do, and never look back. Just keep on doing it.
Die hard, play hard, time for bed. Go to sleep, Jimmy.
Okay, I will.
Okay. Wake up,
This is the
wake up,
Lydian
wake up,
spin.
wake up. It's time for the Lydian spin. Carry on. This is the Lydian spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl as always, and a very special guest taking a few minutes out of his incredibly prolific life, Shane Embury of Napalm Death and about a million other things. Thanks so much for being here.
Hello, how you doing?
Well, I'm going to start it with this. Both of you started your careers as teenagers. Am I wrong?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And
Are you saying we're not still teenagers? Hang on, hang on.
Yeah, in my head maybe. But yeah,
well, I mean, it's kind of amazing. I was just a teenager when I was a teenager. I wasn't like touring and starting a career as a teenager. But
Did you say you weren't whoring? What did you say? You weren't what?
Well, my parents try to keep a good eye on me, so I mean that was a different thing. But I have to ask you, Shane. I mean, as far as I know, the history, John Peel basically discovers Napalm Death. You joined Napalm Death after Scum, though, right? You were supposed to be on Scum, but you turned that down. Is that right?
yeah. I think I was too much of a home village boy at the time. So, I was born about an hour from here. Um, I don't know back then. Yeah, I met the guys in March of '86, in between A and B of Scum.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Side A and side B. Yes, exactly.
yeah, so it's slightly different lineups, which some people kind of forget, or it's never really publicized that way. But so I was going to jump in for the B side and kind of didn't, and there we go. And yeah,
But let's
so
go back to John Peel for a minute because he was monumental in so many people's careers. He was such a cool dude. I mean, he was playing Teenage Jesus. Who else would play that on the freaking radio? Nobody.
yeah. I mean, John was great. I mean, I came from the metal background, but then got into alternative stuff and punk, and so John was perfect for that. It was like the Bible in a way, I suppose, for that kind of music.
There was
And
nothing
yeah,
like that in America, really. There was nothing like John Peel at that
no,
point.
I don't. Yeah, maybe not. I don't think so. And so yeah, he was instrumental, not just Napalm Death, but all of the Earache record stuff. Really, he just kind of latched onto it, and yeah, he went with it. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have listeners who aren't so much into the kind of heavy extreme music, but and correct me if I'm wrong, because you also played in some death metal stuff, but grindcore, I always from the outside, it was less. The main difference, besides maybe it being a little more unrefined and just more urgent, is also is the lyrical content, which is less about like satanic absurdity and more about politics, labor, left, kind of left leaning. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but definitely like anti-Thatcher was a big part of all this stuff. So do you? I don't know. I mean, you're into music, but do you actually? How political do you even view yourself? I guess is what I'm asking.
I'm I think I'm probably not. I'm more into the music than the politics, whereas Barney, our singer, is more into the sort of politics. Well, both really, but more as a spokesman. And through the years of Napalm, starting in the bedroom before Scum and stuff, it was always it was crass influenced, things like that. So me personally, not so much.
Yep.
I kind of keep it on in the background. Really, I like to just get into the music of whatever. But Napalm Death, of course, Grindcore. See, Grindcore is a weird thing because I think the phrase came originally from our old drummer Mickey Harris, who
Yep.
was sort of quite wild in his drum playing. He played with John Zorn and stuff like that. But to him, grindcore wasn't just fast; it was more of the abrasive, distorted sound of, say, early Swans or Sonic Youth or
More
something like that.
experimental, really.
Yeah, it was a mixture because I mean the original guys from Napalm were also Love Throbbing Gristle and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a big mishmash. And so over the years, it kind of because we got into death metal and things like that, people were like, "Oh yeah, you're a death metal band." Well, not necessarily.
I'd like to rephrase it as death grind.
Yeah, that works. And then lately, I mean, everything go now as we get older or whatever. And our musical tastes were always eclectic, even when we were doing the grindcore stuff, because we used to we'd do like a small gig with Newcastle for 40 people and drive back listening to John Peel. So he would play Sonic Youth, Cocktail Twins, Dead Can Dance, Fetus, all that kind of stuff. So we'd be like, yep, we take it all in. So to us, it was everything really.
But also there was a thing called thrashcore coming out of Boston, like Siege and
Yeah.
those guys, and that was another influence, I guess. Joey Barron, who played with Zorn for years, would said that seeing you guys or even seeing Mick Harris play, it had the same urgency as when he saw some of the great jazz drummers. There was obviously you have all this technique that to be able to realize it, but there was kind of this made up on the spot spontaneity that he really connected with you guys with. And I don't know how much variation you have every night because you're honoring the songs you honor, but I guess how loose is a Napalm Death gig, even though you're playing those songs? I mean, how off script do you ever go?
Probably not as much as I'd like.
Okay.
Me personally.
Who's holding you back, Shane? Who's holding you back? Come on, let him loose.
I don't know. It just we kind of we do honor the songs within their structure, but our drummer tends to sort of go off on his own tangents anyway, and we kind of have to follow him. So it's not like to a click kind of vibe. There is that chaos all the time, and then some nights, occasionally, when you hone in all together, it becomes something a bit more almost like an ethereal experience or something. It reminds me of when Jazz Coleman talks about Killing Joke and they go into their kind of
Transinduction.
Yeah, that kind of. So occasionally you go, oh, you hit on a spot and you're like,
But maybe Shane, you go off because you've had so many different other projects. So you can take whatever you save in Napalm Death and bring it to your multiplicity of many other projects.
Yeah. I mean, it's lately, especially, it's definitely become more of a not the therapeutical, but a shamanistic approach in music in a way, to some degree. You know, you tend to lose yourself sometimes with the noise and the chaos and the sounds are swirling around, and you're just like, some nights you can just lose yourself, and I like that particularly. And sometimes when it stops, it's like, oh wow, I was just going there. I don't want to stop now.
The problem is when you lose yourself, yourself always finds you back again. So you just got to do it again.
yeah, pretty much over and over. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not.
So you guys, I mean, I can say from my own opinion, I think you guys are just constantly getting better, and not a lot of bands you can say that about. And I don't know how many shows you've done in your life. I mean, I don't know at your peak of touring. I mean,
Never stops. Doesn't seem to stop.
What continue? Why do you keep on going?
Um, well, I mean, from a music point of view, me personally, I had the challenge of the last album, which was a while ago now. I had to didn't have to, but put the music together pretty much all myself because our guitarist had moved back to the States. And I don't know, I think I never stopped learning or listening to new different forms of music, and I just keep on getting inspired in different ways. That I don't get bored because there's so much out there. Some
Well,
people
I know
say,
exactly why you keep on going, because if you don't, your blood is going to boil you alive. I mean, it burns in your blood to
well, yeah,
create,
yeah,
so we do it. It's
that's very true. There's also that creative aspect where, I mean, when I'm at home, when I do my sort of droney dark sky burial stuff that I really love to do, if I have a few days away from any sort of sound creating, I get itchy. I start getting irritable. My wife usually
can't
gets
stand you anymore.
well, yeah, it's up and down. I mean, I'm not the easiest person, that's for damn sure. But so I have to, I have to do this. Yeah, sometimes you just have to do it. Really, it's just the way
You
it is.
gotta do it. There are some of us that just you gotta do it. Although I mean, I have to say, I've done a lot of stuff, but I'm not itchy if I'm not doing it. But it seems like there's always something else to do. So maybe I'm the calamine lotion to my own itch just by doing it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if it's not music, I mean, you can watch a movie or read a book and go, oh, okay. Then something will hit you.
And then
I'm forever writing down titles of songs I probably never ever get the chance to do, or the book I'll never really get round to writing. But there'll be phrases and some sort of weird poetry or something. I'm like, oh, you wake up in the morning. Like, usually for me, it's 3 in the morning. Brains ding, and I'm like, oh, write that down. Then I have to get up at 7 to take the kids to school. I'm like, oh my god, I want to go back to bed.
I want the book
What?
of the weird poetry for sure. I mean, that, to me that's channeling another part of the brain that itches.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
even like the term poetry, but I know what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and that is a different total concept when you're doing a prose thing that's just literally the vibration and blood from a part of the brain that you're not usually using because music and other things occupy it.
Yeah, and and sometimes I can wake up from a dream, and that dream's quite vivid, and go, I just write elements of that down, which seem to make sense at the time, or maybe don't make sense, and then later on, I go, oh, I'll fuse that with some other thing I've wrote from weeks before, and it just makes sense to me. Maybe not everybody else, but then it hasn't got to make sense to everybody else anyway. They can read it and do their own interpretation. It doesn't really matter, at the end of the day.
I
Yes.
never gave a shit about anybody understanding what it is I do, what it is I say, or how I even exist. So I'm just naturally inclined to not fucking care.
Well, that's a good one. Yeah, I'm starting to. It's just taking me a few more years, probably.
Well, you're a little younger than I am. You'll catch up. Don't worry about it. You'll get that song. Come on.
So
Way it is.
you grew up an hour outside of Birmingham? Is that what you said?
It's just over an hour from the county of Shropshire, they call it, and it's near a place called Iron Bridge, which is the first ever iron bridge ever built. And so I live just up the road from there. It's kind of like Hobbiton from Lord of the Rings sort of thing,
Okay, all right. Yeah, it feels
pretty
like
much.
that.
So that's where I grew up, and it's kind of funny because 3 or 4 of us had our first death metal band there. You go down the bank and you see this old house where Napalm Death once practiced, and it's a dog grooming place. So when I walk past there, it's quite funny. Now I go, huh? But the owners don't actually know that Napalm Death actually played there, practiced in this old house by the riverside. But so yeah, it's not far. It's close, but not. It's not about an hour. Yeah.
Would
So
you?
before Napalm Death, you were playing drums, right?
Started playing drums, and it was like the 4 of us all wanted to play the guitar and we couldn't, so somebody had to choose drums, and that was me. So try to play a Slayer beat first off, and that was about minus the rolls, and then you just kind of keep on going, and then it's kind of helped me in some ways as the time's gone on because you get into I like rhythms. I've always liked rhythms, so yeah, drums, yeah, yeah, yeah.
What are you listening to? I mean, not only listening to, but reading, because I read that you're really into horror, sci-fi. So let's go back. Like when you're 10, 12, 14 years old, what's driving your force? Is it horror films, horror books, sci-fi, music at that time? What were you as a 12-year-old? I need to know.
I mean, 12-year-old probably on TV back then. Probably only had three channels, so you would have the Friday night monster movie, which would either be Hammer horror or something like that.
Which are fantastic.
So I'm a massive Hammer movie fan. I love my Universal movies, and I've just ordered some 6-disc 4K restoration of The Curse of Frankenstein. It's just about to come out, so I have a soft spot for all that, and so that was all me. But also, Top of the Pops is a program they had in England, and the
Oh,
theme
you know
tune
it.
was like Zeppelin, so that introduced me to guitar, and I liked Slayer as a young kid. Then I got into recording theme tunes, so Doctor Who and all this sci-fi. So everybody else would be like, "Look, here's the Bee Gees." I'm like, "Yeah, but have you heard this?" They're like,
Oh,
"What's going
band
on
I
with
hate
this?"
the most in my life is the Bee Gees
I
and
know,
ABBA. Thank you.
but
Oh,
but so they're saying, this is what is this? Oh, disco as I've got older, perhaps, but they're playing this, and I've got my tape recorder out with the big massive keys going, "Well, check this theme out to Doctor Who. Listen to that sound that's going woo, woo, woo," like that. And they're like, "What's up with this guy? He's weirdo." But there we go. That's all right.
Well,
you were born. Let's face it, you were born weird. Some of us just were.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Born weird.
Yeah.
Born
Yeah.
weird.
There was a BBC radio documentary called Synthtopia talking about basically the arrival of synth pop in England with the new romantic and all that stuff. But what I didn't realize, even with like Throbbing Gristle, a lot of people didn't have the money to buy those expensive synthesizers, but you could buy these kits in the
Yeah.
back of magazines, and you can make these homemade ones. So then you have obviously Gary Newman and all this stuff coming out of that. Did you ever get into this? I mean, now I know you have your Dark Sky Burial and you're dealing with all this different stuff, but did you ever experiment with synths growing up as a kid, or did you know anyone that had those things, or did you
I,
like that stuff? I mean, if you like the Doctor Who theme song, yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's. I mean, yeah, from the synth thing, more from the sci-fi movies I used to watch. I mean, Forbidden Planet. I mean, the guys that made that soundtrack, they created the instruments to do that, I believe, as well. But for me, it was more traditional instruments. But I had a few friends who had some primitive synths, which I would, you'd play on a little bit when you had time. But I didn't get into this much later. It was really when I was just going to say Skinny Puppy or in '88 or '89 that I really sort of started to embrace electronic music. But all that new wave stuff from the '80s, whereas at school I was the heavy metal kid, sort of like all that Gary Newman, etc. All I was loving all that, but I was there was
it was
almost too afraid.
too tribal, right? And that's what's kind of funny about. Oh, by the way, Doctor Who, that actually wasn't synth, that was music concrete, but that's a different point. Because when I think of Birmingham and that area, it's like birthplace of heavy metal, but then you have like, I don't know, Duran comes
Yeah,
from
yeah,
there,
cool.
and all this other stuff comes from there. I guess it's just you're saying as kids it was really tribal, and there wasn't so much crossover with the social
I,
thing.
I really hated New Romantic. I hated all that fake crap, I must say. I just found it ridiculous. I just didn't like it. I still don't. I'm just saying, didn't, don't, won't, will not, does not cross my path.
I
No
think I
matter
think
how good they looked in suits, fuck off.
I think I mean, it's amazing how some of all that stuff sticks in my head now more now than it did then. That's the problem.
Earworm.
So I'm not sure. I mean, I do. I mean, I think more stuff more like Bowie really. Whereas one of my bandmates, his brother played Bowie a lot and Velvet Underground and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
so at the time,
good. That's good.
at the time, I was kind of I was receptive to it, but now I appreciate it a lot more as the years have gone. I'm like, well, that was I'm glad that I heard that and kind of surprised myself at how much Bowie stuff I did know without actually having too many records, which is weird. Yeah, but
Well, I mean, up to Diamond Dogs, which is one of my favorite Bowie records. I cut him off after that because I just didn't like the pop crap. But it's, based on 1984. It's very dystopian and prophetic, and it's fucking weird. Got to go back to it. Check it again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
we are
one
the
thing,
dead. We
well, one thing,
certainly are.
Shane, I think you're touching on, and I think this is what you're saying. I know for myself, I think when people dedicate their lives to music, there's a lot of you there's lines in the sand, just kind of dedicate yourself to an aesthetic that you want to dedicate yourself to. But often what happens is you come back to things that you reject and look at it from another angle,
Exactly.
or ask yourself, why did I have such a reaction against this?
Yeah.
Where suddenly, like, maybe that's actually an interesting perspective, or maybe you've been through so much, you've combed through so much shit that you kind of want to see things from another angle. I don't
Very
know.
good point, Tim.
It's yeah. I mean, well, I mean, one of my favorite bands is a band from England called Cardiacs, which no one
Yeah,
really.
Oh yeah, the
I know them.
Cardiacs, they're great. I
of
know
course.
them.
So probably my favorite band, but no one knows them too much. But they've just come out with a new album finally after 17 years, even though Tim, the originator, passed away. It's an amazing album, but by loving Cardiacs, I was like, well, this is interesting. Who's inspired these? So I go back and find like Van de Graaff Generator or Henry Cow or little
Yep.
early Genesis, and I'm going. So it's like a big. I have to. Who is these? What are these bits that put this band together? And you find out more crazier stuff, and I get excited by that. It's just like this big anthropological kind of music, search really. So
What you mentioned very quickly in passing. I do believe I heard the word Genesis.
yeah, early Genesis.
Well,
Yeah,
by the way,
I mean,
I did see The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway when I was
right.
about 13, and it was freaking amazing. And speak about dystopian, but that for me, and a few of the albums before, but that album to me was amazing, and then that was enough. And Phil Collins, I know Tim is a fan.
Well, and he's a great drummer. I mean, I don't
don't care.
like his housewife.
It's a horrible thing. It's a hideous thing.
Well, but you're talking about. I mean, obviously, the thing about prog rock is it can be really terrible. But like say the whole movement, the rock and opposition movement, they're talking about Henry Cow and all that stuff. I mean, Cardiacs. It can be art rock. It can be something completely different. I guess it's kind of one of those things. It's like heavy metal. I mean, how why is that?
Got to be in the
spectrum?
mood. Look, sometimes you're just in the mood. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you are a nut. Whatever.
Roar. So
Yeah, well, open wide for Chunky, Tim, is all I can say to you.
Shane, what's the longest you've gone without touring? I guess maybe the pandemic, but outside of the pandemic, what's the longest you've gone without touring since you joined Napalm Death?
I mean, the past few months, I've been taking a bit of a break after the Melvins tour, to sort of concentrate a bit more on family and health stuff, but also, I don't know, but not very long, 3 to 4 months probably, and then you're back out doing something,
Did you just do some shows with the Cro-Mags?
I think we may have played with Cro-Mags a long time ago, but I don't know about recently. I don't know. The recent tour was with Melvins. That was about 10 weeks. Of that.
That's amazing. That's a weird combo.
Yes and no.
So it's the second tour we've done. For some reason, and we did an album together, which came out on AMREP, which is a quite interesting album.
Oh, Amphetamine Reptile is Tom Hazelmeyer, just a master of putting things out, graphic designer, great record release, amazing guy.
So that's been out. I think there might be a different version coming out on CD at the end of the year. So that was quite interesting. We just kind of got together with Buzz and Dale and just did whatever the hell we wanted. So that's always refreshing, really, to be fair. And not too long with not touring. This is probably the longest I've been back, really, just getting my shit together in my head. But at the same time, I'm making loads of weird music in my little home studio thing here, so
you were born weird. That's why you're making weird music now. How did your book come about? Because that is a commitment of time. I consider myself more of a writer than anything else. It's a commitment of time, and I hope you'll read us a few passages. But when did you start that? How long did it take? You got to get this shit out of your system. You got to write it down because other people share. They want to know, and there's a lot of people just need to know because they feel the same about a lot of the things.
Well, I always used to joke about you were there having a beer or something or partying and people think, oh, this one's from a book, I'm just joking and never actually. Then when I got the question from Rocket 88, would I like to do one? I said, well, yeah, why not? I might as well. And it was during the pandemic, I guess, towards the tail end. It took about 6 to 8 months, maybe 10 months, maybe, because I have a friend who was Dave Everly, who was a journalist for a few metal magazines. He kind of dictated it for me because if I'd have tried to write it physically, I probably would have just kept on changing.
Let me just point that out for a minute. That's a very good point because I teach them workshops about you write, how do you read? But one of the things I always say to people is everybody can tell a great story. Not everybody can write one, but you can tell it to somebody. You can you can record it, and then you can edit it because we all have great stories to tell. That's a very good way of having done it.
It's sometimes I think, and sometimes you can be spontaneous with what you say,
Uh,
and which is well most of the time with me, I can talk and talk and talk, but if I start sitting there thinking about the next thing that's going to come, it's like
it's a very different mind fuck
yeah,
writing
yeah,
it down, but telling it is what we do.
yeah. I
Are
think
you
so.
going to tell us something from your book soon? Now, like, oh yeah, please
I could try to do something. I'm going to put my glasses on then. So here we
put your
go.
glasses on.
That's it. So let me see this in here. We can do.
So the book is by Shane Embry, and it's called Life question mark Napalm Death.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a little trying to be humorous there. We have a track with life, the question marks. I thought, why not? Um, well, it's hard to know what to read, but I can. We got a 2003. Played live with a band called Brujeria, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
Oh, fantastic band from Mexico. Yeah.
so. So for the first time in 2003, there was one rule: don't die on tour. Brujeria are a band I've been involved in with on and off since the early 90s. It is the brainchild of a guy named Juan Brujo, who is one of the craziest people I knew. At this point in 2000, he's actually since passed away, unfortunately. At this point in 2003, Napalm Death had gone quiet. We'd done a few shows at the start of the year, but that was it aside from one or two festival gigs in the summer. Myself, Barney, and our manager were trying to address these overdue issues, which were fairly exhausting. I figured I'd go to the States and hide away from reality a bit. So when Brujo asked if I wanted to play a few shows in Brujeria, I thought, why not? Billy Gould from Faith No More had told me about this Mexican guy a long, long time ago that he went to high school with in LA, which was Juan Brujo. The guy Brujo was the lead singer of a band called Brujeria, which means witchcraft in Spanish. Brujo and a friend of his called Junior had to come over to a festival, and that's where I met. So he did. I mean, Brujeria. I mean, do you want me to continue? Or,
Yeah. Keep on going. Yeah.
So
I just got
anyway,
started.
so we got talking, and we just hit it off. I told them I was planning on coming to the States to stay at my friend Mitch, our old guitarist, stays in Vegas, and then head across to Los Angeles to see Jane's Addiction. Brujo said we should hang out when I got to LA, and we ended up spending a bit of time together. He was driving an old black police car, which was pretty funny. He's one of those people who knows everybody and everybody knows him. Brujo didn't come from a musical background, but he and his friends loved the band Terrorizer, which is an old Los Angeles grindcore band
Classic.
from our old guitarist Jesse Pintado as well. Jesse before he Napalm Death. Latin American kids loved grindcore generally, and Brujo thought let's do a band that speaks for them. Their music and lyrics were totally over the top, but in a way that American death metal bands weren't. Their songs were all about drug lords and gruesome killings and the occult. But it was done in a way that was absolutely hilarious in some ways. I don't speak much Spanish, but Jesse's father used to laugh all the time whenever we listened to Brujeria. And Brujo would be there laughing besides because Jesse's father did. And that was that. So it's very different lyrically to Napalm Death. Let's try and think where we can go here with this. Just carry on. Oh, yeah.
Carry
Yeah.
on.
Well,
We'll
okay,
we'll
carry
cut you
on.
off.
So Billy had played a lot of bass on the Brujeria albums because he was a friend and went back with a long way back with Brewer and Dino from the band Fear Factory was in there too, but they never revealed their identities originally. They built up a myth that they were Mexican drug lords. They had some crazy launch party for one of their early 7-inch singles in San Francisco, where every 7-inch supposedly came with a gram of cocaine, which I thought was pretty funny.
Only a gram? That's wow.
But anyway,
Must have been really good if it was only that.
well, bro, and I can't go through it. I wasn't that one, but knowing bro, I can imagine how nuts it was. I happened to be staying at Jesse Pintado's place in LA when Brujeria were recording their debut album, Metandueros. Brujo said, "I want you to play on the record. It's the studio in Glendale. If you want to go and do it, you got to do it now." So we were going to see Alice in Chains in the Palladium. That night, I put my bass guitar in the trunk of the car, and then after that, we went up to the studio in Glendale with Jesse. We got to the studio and just started recording these riffs. I was absolutely drunk, shit-faced is the word I think I used. Jesse, who didn't really drink at that time, was so drunk he couldn't even play a riff. And Junior, who was there for the friend of Brewer, said, "Well, Shane, you can't be that drunk because I can still understand what you're saying." Um, but I have very little memory of that session. I know I was there because I've seen video footage of it. But beyond that,
I
it's a blur.
know I was there. I saw
Um,
video footage.
so we get the finished album. Later on, listening to these songs, going, God, some of this sounds really like Napalm Death. Well, I watched the video back. It was me playing the riff, so obviously that would be what it did. So the album Matando Eros came out in 1993. Eros was slang for white Americans, and Matando means kill. So it pretty much it says kill whitey. So it's pretty graphic there. The cover was very controversial. It was a photo of somebody holding up a severed head. And there you go. Or maybe I'll stop there for now.
All right.
Well, okay, so you were talking about you were so drunk you only remember it by video instant replay. Did you have a lot of alcohol issues at that point?
I didn't think there were issues at that point because I was young. I thought this is just what it was. It's just
It's what you do when you're young.
you come from those yeah, well, right, there's the small village you join the band, and then you start doing a few shows, a few punk gigs, a few squat shows, and then it becomes touring. And then the lineup changed a little bit, and two Americans came into the band from the States because they wanted to play in Napalm, just tour, because there wasn't at that point there wasn't much going on in America for that kind of music, which has since changed, obviously. So
You're talking Pete Sandoval, who was who are you
From
talking
Florida?
about?
Who was? Where
Oh,
are
no,
they
Pete,
from?
well, LA and Florida.
Well, when Mickey Harris left Napalm Death, and we that was actually when Mickey was still in the band. Jesse from Terrorizer joined Napalm Death over here, and also a guy called Mitch Harris from a band called Righteous Pigs in Las Vegas came over. So this house where I'm at is the old Napalm Death house, and at one point four of us lived here at the same time, pretty much. Um, so yeah,
One second. It's kind of amazing when people know they're so dedicated to a certain music. And I've done this myself before, where you have to relocate to coordinate and collaborate with somebody that you think is necessary to do it at the time. You just got to do it sometimes. And that's great.
I mean, at that point because of course with Napalm, because of John Peel, he pushed Napalm got the spotlight, I suppose. But at the same time, Jesse was doing Terrorizer in Los Angeles, and Mitch was doing Righteous Pigs in Vegas. It's just that at the time in the States, as you say, there was no John Peel pushing it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
they came over here, and then we became a family. They became my brothers, and still are, of course. I mean, our drummer Danny is upstairs now. He's just got back from LA, and so yeah, I mean it. Then you start not just playing shows and touring together and sort of loving the life that you're living. You're also in Birmingham every week there was some great band playing, and we were like, oh, can you get us on the guest list? Thank you very much. Let's go down, rock out. And so yeah, the alcohol wasn't so much an issue until later on.
What were some of the great bands at that point that you'd go see in Birmingham? I mean, still, the UK still has a pretty vibrant music scene, even if it's not so much coming out of the UK, they still at least allow you to fricking play there. You know what I mean? So what were you seeing like at this point? What were you going to see?
Well, because of we were quite eclectic in our taste. Early 90s, there would be my Bloody Valentine, or there would be Let Me Faith No More, or there would be James Dixon,
Wire,
and Sonic Youth were playing. I saw them a couple of times on acid, I think it was, but and I won't go there. But and then Melvins will play.
Did you ever see the Shock-Headed Peters? They were the only band that John Peel ever banned because of a lyrical content, but they were very interesting. Shock-Headed Peters,
yeah,
Dave Knight,
I didn't see them, but I know
Carl
Mickey Harris was a massive fan of them. Shock-Headed
Okay. They released very little, but one of their songs was I'd like to walk through Eden with a boy on my arm who's so damn pretty he doesn't even know his name. Just lyrics. And it was the only record John Peel ever banned. They were pretty amazing. They did an amazing version of Heartbreak Hotel.
I haven't thought about that band until you mentioned the name. As soon as I was like, oh, and then I remember Mickey, because Mickey would, I'd go and stay at Mickey's house and he would play me all that early Swans and stuff like that, which was new to me from a metal perspective.
Right.
So he would play me that, and he would play Birthday Party or all this stuff, which totally new to me, but I loved.
I mean, when Birthday Party were amazing before
Well,
Roland S. Howard left.
what's the one I like? I can't remember the track all that really like. Yeah, well, my brain's gone dead.
Well,
But
there were a lot of good tracks until the bad seeds.
but there's a one particular album I like, and it's just I appreciate it even more now.
Junkyard.
That's the one I
Junk.
think it is. That could be the one. Yeah.
I'm sure it was.
But yeah, so there's bands every week from all kinds of stuff. The Manchester
Yep.
thing was kind of happening. I wasn't massively into that, but I kind of appreciated the sort of energy of the clubs and the whatever.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
So
and then you became your own club and started touring, and then you became the thing people were going out to see. Exactly.
Yeah, well, they become, and then at one point, of course, because I was in there also a few other bands. There was one tour I played in the three bands every night. So there was a band called Brujeria, there was a band called Lockup, and Napalm Death. So that was interesting.
Would you say that Napalm Death is partially responsible for Terrorizer breaking up, mainly because, as you're saying, John Peel put the spotlight on you guys, and they didn't have the same kind of spotlight, and so then they just kind of went and worked with the bands that had the spotlight. They kind of like, okay, I'm out of here, and I'm joining Morbid Angel, or I'm joining Napalm Death, or maybe there's something else going on.
I think Pete had actually joined, or went down to join. Actually, no, before Jesse came over, actually, they recorded the first Terrorizer album down in Florida because Pete had already moved and joined Morbid Angel.
Okay.
That was right before Jesse came over. So it's a very weird point. I think when Jesse first came over, I don't think he actually thought he was coming to join the band. I think he was just coming for a tour. And then because we did the tour with us and Morbid Angel together in '89, and then he went back over, and then Mickey, our drummer, was going, "When you coming back over?" He's like, "Oh, I did." And then he came back over, and then lo and behold, lived here for X amount of years.
It's so funny that Tampa, Florida, and Birmingham became these centers of this kind of music. I mean, I guess it's just because of the labels. It was Roadrunner was out of New York, right? Or no, Roadrunner was in Tampa, right?
Roadrunner was New York. Well, actually, originally Holland, but then mainly there was the New York office. They started signing a lot of the death metal for sure. And there's Earache over in Nottingham, Nuclear Blast over in Germany. So they started having this three-way sort of competition of who could sign the most brutal bands, I suppose.
I mean, it's funny. I lived in Florida for 6 months once. A different story for a different time. But I was thinking, oh, Tampa, there's a whole death metal scene. It's like, oh wait, they just live there. There's not like it's not like there's these clubs that all the shit's coming from or something. At least I didn't see that. It was just like that's just where they fucking live.
And I want to go back to your weird music that you do on the sideline, and if there's something coming from that would be more like an instrumental record of post-horror sci-fi, almost soundtracky stuff coming. I'm pushing for that.
Well, I think probably in the pandemic was when I sort of locked myself away down here and started doing Dark Sky. I've done digitally, I've done about 11, 12 albums actually in the past few years, and the earlier stuff was kind of influenced by my love of the industrial band, or the industrial ambient band Coil. I love Coil.
You love Coil, yeah.
Coil were great. So what is that recorded under? What are those albums under?
Well, that's Dark Sky Burial.
Dark Sky Burial. Yeah.
You can. There's a Bandcamp site with that on.
Okay.
So the first few albums, especially the first one, is probably a mixture of Coil worship, stroke. Like Lucio Fulci Italian horror movie kind of vibe, which is what I love that sort of 80s.
I'm going to check that out. I'm very interested in that kind of vibe for sure. And Coil were very amazing. I mean, Sleazy was amazing person.
Yeah, I love. I mean, I've one of my friends who passed away. So he got me a Gold Is the Metal signed record by John Balance, which I still have in my collection. So I'm quite happy about that. But I love Coil. Some of they just. Especially back then as well, because nowadays it's not easier, but there's everything to sound the way it is, where they were doing tape loops and all, really getting in there and cutting things up. So
well, and you had mentioned Fetus before, if I remember correctly, briefly, and let's face it, he was the originator of literally physically cutting shit together.
It was we played in New Zealand a few years ago, in the same club Jim played the day before. So I went by, and that was pretty good. I think he was. I can't think. It was, can't think what it's called. What are you doing? But he was doing the surround sound thing with the video,
Yeah,
the theremin. And
he's
brilliant.
amazing.
It
Yeah, I
was
mean,
great stuff. That was good. A
amazing.
nice bonus to play in New Zealand. I was like, oh wow, it was just around the corner. Literally 2 minute walk. I'm like, brilliant, great. I'm down there. Yeah, it's great.
Exactly. All good.
So what? So okay, you go from drums to bass, right? Or did you do guitar before bass?
Sort of, I think jack of all trades, master of none is what we say over here. I always say that really. Yeah, it was kind of Napalm needed a bass player. The weird thing is they'd done the A side of Scum, and then they played a show. No, I went to see a show in Coventry. And Nick Bullen, one of the original for the founding members of Napalm, Justin Broderick had just left to play drums for Head of David, and he said, "We need a guitarist." I said, "Well, sure, I've got some sort of songs. Some of the songs that actually appeared on the second Napalm album." So I agreed to play a guitar originally, but then I kind of like over the winter months just chickened out, I think, or I don't know what. And then basically after the first album came out, probably sulking, and they said, "Well, we need a bass player now." I'm like, "Right, I'm not missing. I'm not missing. I'm not going to miss it my chance a second time. I've got to get in there." And then basically brought the songs in, which I'd showed the old bass player between side A and side B. So it's kind of confusing, but then that was it. But yeah, and then
But so you got, I mean, there's a million whiz kids now that can play everything probably better than the originators at this point. Um, would you just say it's just family? I mean, the amount of franchising that goes on amongst like fucking 20 fucking musicians between grindcore and death metal is just insane to me. Is it some kind of family thing? I guess is it you guys are speaking the same language when you go in the same room, or
Death grind. I'm telling you, it's death grind.
I think yeah, Death Grind's probably better. But I think yeah, I mean from the older sort of influences, if that's the right word. I mean, yeah, you get a lot of young kids who can play probably everything, but does it? I don't know. Does it really have the same point of origin in a way?
Soul? Does it have the fucking soul? Does it have the bloodline? Does it have the emotional and psychological and moral brutality that needs to be expressed? And without that, what the fuck is it? And I don't care what format music takes, as long as it has the depth of that. It's
Yeah.
got to have that depth. And if you don't, you can play everything masterfully and go to Carnegie Hall and going to be fucking nothing.
Well, I think it's yeah. There's a lot to do with is that on that almost like a hidden secret language where if I show somebody from one of my friends Anton who grew up in South America playing death metal there, he joined one of my bands and there's an unspoken kind of thing between us where I can show him a riff and he gets it completely and he knows kind of where it's about. Where interestingly enough, there's a few people um, I know that they don't. It's should you know your history? Maybe I don't know. You should kind of
Well,
have.
I think so much of the kind of stuff we do, even though it's not exactly the same, we do very different kind of stuff, but it still comes from an internal organ or a bloodline. So that is what is the fruit that is the poison or the blessed that those that know and have it can then collaborate with us. And if they don't, it makes no sense. And it can cross any kind of musical boundary, any kind of genre. But it's if you have that depth of perception, that poisoned blood that needs to come out, that damaged liver where all trauma lives and then music flows from. Hello, here we are together at last in whatever format, even conversation.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's some destiny in that for sure. I think probably. I reckon. I mean, certainly every time I see Buzz, I mean Buzz is a fellow sort of explorer into all things musical. So and we play different quite kind of music. When we get together, we still kind of think the same. It's like, well, there's no egos, there's no like
Connective
whatever.
tissue there.
That's good.
Exactly.
That's good for me. Yeah.
so how many times have you been totally misunderstood? Like whether like Christian fanatics maybe banning you, or I mean, have you guys been attacked like in terms of just like by just someone just totally misunderstanding what's even going on or taking it too seriously or whatever?
No, I mean not probably as much as we should have. Maybe I don't know. No.
Not yet.
Well, yeah, not yet. You never know. It's never say
Now that
never.
we're living in Magistan, who knows?
Never say never. But
Well,
a couple of times in in those kind of Allentown, Pennsylvania, we've had a few semi rough times with the local skinhead fraternity there and there or whatever.
okay, okay,
But
that kind of
there we
thing.
go. That kind of thing,
Well,
really.
so,
It's a
and so
great.
then,
I
So
was
you
saying
got
it's a
something to say,
great
Sebastian?
question. It's a great question, Tim, from you being in a band called Child Abuse.
oh well, there you go. Well, so, and I don't know if you know that band, Shane, but I'll send it your way.
Well, I didn't have too much controversy over Teenage Jesus because you know what? Back in the day, we didn't fucking care anyway. So you can't cancel me when I've already canceled you, motherfuckers. I don't give a shit. Hello, hello.
Well,
Just saying.
I mean, I'm sure you probably shared a bill with anal cunt at some point, and so what do you
Yeah.
think of that kind of like provocative, transgressive, maybe even funny? I don't know. People can interpret it any way they want. Obviously, did did you get along with Seth Putnam, or was he
Well,
always kind of?
there's always that thing where one of my close friends, Kevin Sharp, of Brutal Truth,
Yep.
knew Seth and Dan Ilka knew Seth way more than me. And we played a few shows in the day, and the last time I did see Seth, we did they call it Extreme the Dojo Festival in Japan, and
Okay.
there was Napalm, AC, Pig Destroyer, and Nazem from Sweden, band called
Yep.
Nazem, and so I remember talking to Seth, and of course, Seth, they'd pug from Napalm era, God knows whoever, really.
Yeah.
But that the conversations I had with Seth, totally nice guy, totally fine.
Totally.
And I wouldn't. I'm too old to sort of really. You don't. Well, you try not to read comments because there's always going to be somebody having a go at you. Really, I think. And you have to be maybe you wake up in a bad mood to go, oh God, that annoyed me. But Seth was, I mean, we were fine. I remember him snorting a line of wasabi, which is
Tim,
pretty brutal.
I think you should do a
Oh,
cover
God.
band called Nasal Runt because it's a cover band of anal cunt.
Maybe.
Roar. Well, I mean, so you
Never
and Seth,
cared.
you
Never
and Seth
cared. Don't give a shit.
Let's revisit that. You and Seth Putnam snorted a line of wasabi
No,
in
not me.
Japan,
But no, not me. No, I tried to stop him from snorting a line of wasabi,
but he did it.
but he did it, and he instantly threw up. But but I said, well,
Nasal
mate,
Runt.
like,
What was I just saying? How did I
It's very
know?
intuitive. Very intuitive.
I said, what do you? I said,
Nasal Runt.
I mean, to me. I think he almost semi tried to apologize for some of the stuff he said, and I was like, Seth, I don't really care. It's like, dude, don't worry about it, man. It's like it is what it is. We're playing these shows together. They're great shows, and they're a lot of fun. That's all that matters really right now. So let's leave it at that.
When was the last time you were in Japan? Now it's they obviously are huge music fans. You guys go there
Quite
often?
a lot, quite a lot. I think we were there Christmas time. Well, I say December time rather, like probably two years ago.
Okay.
And that I'm trying, and yeah, so that was the last time. My wife's Japanese,
Oh,
and
okay.
and I have two children who speak Japanese fluently, and so they live here with me. I'd rather live in Japan probably, but there we go. It's more visually interesting than for me, but
Well, that's another thing, Shane. Nothing against the Rust Belt England and stuff, but you have this career. What made you stay in that area?
I don't know really. Sometimes I don't know. I mean, I where we live with the family is almost it's on the outskirts of Birmingham, so it's not you have that countryside kind of vibe. But I think um, my wife always trying to explain to me in the way that she feels that Japan would be a little bit tougher to live in. I don't know. I tend to be a bit. I'm always quite. I don't know. I sort of cope life at a time. Well, even though it can be it is full of hardships and stress, and as life is. But sometimes I try to think, well, there's always somewhere else maybe that might be a little bit easier to get on in.
Let's go walk in the fucking country. Exactly. Go get barefoot in the grass for a minute because people don't realize that shit can matter, especially when you're living a hardcore life of constant touring that you don't want to necessarily live in a city. I mean, Tim and I live in a city, but where I live, I got trees outside every window. I could be anywhere where I live.
Yeah.
And I've lived in many places, but sometimes you don't need to live in the throng of what you're just doing all the rest of your life. You just need to like sit down, go away, do what you do, leave me the fuck alone. That's pretty much not a bad concept.
So I mean, yeah, so I do, yeah, I appreciate the sort of semi-solitude a little bit more than I used to,
Well,
really.
and Tim calls it where you live like the Rust Belt, which is I grew up in the Rust Belt of America. So, but I'm not going back there, but it doesn't matter because I'm a
Rochester.
nomad. I go everywhere, but I understand the Rust Belt concept that gets in your blood, the rust that gets in your blood.
Well, so speaking of the Birmingham area, did you ever run into Ozzy Osbourne, who just passed?
No, unfortunately, never met Ozzy. I met Tony and Geezer a couple of times, and they were really nice. The Aussie thing obviously was a very big thing here during the summertime when I went into the town, which is not the city was not very far from here. They have a museum and a lot of murals in there, which are quite. I like the murals. I think that's quite kind of nice. It's kind of overdue for Birmingham in some ways.
Sure.
And it's kind of funny walking around just getting random Mexican guys going, Shane from Napalm Death, how you doing? I'm like, all right, how's it going? I mean, never met Ozzy, unfortunately. I would have liked to, really. But
I would have thought that maybe Ozfest would have invited Napalm Death at some point, but I guess not.
I don't think it's, the weird thing with Napalm, I don't know, we don't seem to, not always, I mean, it's changed a lot over the past few years, but certainly say 15 years ago, people tended to avoid napalm for some reason. I don't know why. It was just no. I don't. I'm not. I'm assuming that, but we never seem to get those kind of.
Well, it's interesting, Shane, that you say that, and I mentioned Cro-Mags a few minutes ago because I had read a post that Harley had came up on my newsfeed. Goes, all these people that said they were influenced by Cro-Mags will never invite them to open for them. And I'm like, I have the same problem. All these people that claimed I might have influenced them, nobody will let us play with them. I'm like, you know what? We're going to do hardcore versus hardcore, and we're going to do something together. And he sends his regards, by the way, Harley Flanagan.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
he was 12. He was 12 when he started. He was even younger than us when he started.
I know for sure. Beyond, I mean, it is. It's a strange thing that really where you would
of course
you would never seem to get invited onto these things. I mean, and I mean Barney especially doesn't. I mean, we don't. Do we care? I don't know. But the recent thing, the recent Sabbath gig that happened in Birmingham, I was like, oh, it would have been nice to have done that because it's just down the road, and Barney's an Aston Villa fan too, which is whatever. But I mean, we're from Birmingham, Sabbath is in our blood, but we didn't get invited to that.
There was just a big CBGB's event. I don't fucking know why. Certainly, I would have said no even if they invited me. But it's like that to me is like, yeah, because you know what? We're outside of the mainstream list, but we are inside of the important list because we know what we've done. We continue to do it. And that's why we invited you onto the show because we are nothing in that stubborn, relentless, and not fucking stopping.
Exactly.
That's why we welcomed you onto this, Shane Embry, with
Thank you very much.
book. Napalm does so many projects.
We really appreciate your time, and I know you have a busy schedule. Is there do you have a tour coming up or anything that you want to plug, or maybe your?
Do you start again this month in October?
I think there's a couple of shows coming up. There's a festival in Greece this weekend, and then Columbia Festival, and some shows in South America. I have another Dark Sky Bearer album coming out on October 24th,
cool,
which is a little bit more vocal, a little bit more. Well, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's got that kind of soundtrack vibe. There's a little bit of that Children of God Swans vibe in there as well, and all kinds of stuff. So things are going on, yeah. And also, the audio book. I'm doing the audio book of the book as well coming up. So
I'm waiting for the weird poetry book, Dreamscape, Stream of Consciousness, nonsense to everybody but us. Trust me, I know the vibe.
Thank you very much. I'm glad someone does. Thank God.
I'm giving you a little coddle thread because you got like 5 minutes of spare time. Never, I know. Thank you so much, Shane Embury. Napalm Death and a million other projects. Not stopping, just not fucking stopping. This is the Lydian Spin, and we're not going to stop But we would appreciate any help we can get because, look, our mouths do not run on gas and air alone, occasionally food and drink. So if you wouldn't mind contributing, no contribution, too large or too small, because we're just going to keep going, whether or not you help us out. Your gain, your loss.
The PayPal is paypal.me/TSD1975. That's paypal.me/TSD1975.
It would help. We're going to keep going. You know, we don't like to beg, and certainly we're not, but actually, it's a fucking command. Take it or leave it. Thank you. This is the Lydian Spin.